Hello and welcome to my first episode of Harmonic Theorem. I am your host, Sean McCumber. I am a graduate from the University of Southern Mississippi with an anthropology degree, but also with a minor in music education. The reason why I choose to do this is because I really want to teach anyone who is willing to learn music theory. Music theory is a very, very wonderful topic. I love sharing, and I would love to share my knowledge with y'all. So basically, like I said, I've been a musician since I was 6 years old. I started playing the piano and guitar, and I grew up around with a lot of elements in my life. With my grandfather, my dad, basically my brother and we are all musicians in a family, so basically I'm kind of like one of the first ones in the family to actually write down music because I wanted to be a band director before I switched majors. Wanted to be an instrumental music ed major. But in the first 2 years of my college, I learned a lot of knowledge about music theory, especially when I learned that basically when we were taught music theory, we were actually going through a timeline, which is basically music history, all the way up to about the 21st century, where we were using electronic technology. So I do have to say this is probably a good step forward for me, because I don't want to feel like letting the knowledge be lost. But like I said, this is probably the best way to spread my knowledge. And if anybody ever wants to listen in or has any ideas, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, I'm gonna be teaching all the way, learning, teaching y'all how to do triads, chords. I even gonna be teaching y'all how to transpose songs for different other musical instruments, because not all musical instruments are created equal. So basically, if you ever wonder why the B flat clarinet is the B flat clarinet, whereas the trombone is the B flat trombone, but here's the thing about the B flat tenor trombone. It's always written in the key of C, which is basically concert C. Well, you're also going to be learning concert C, and your instrumental C is going to sound a whole lot different. So, where is this trial? So basically, I mean, this is basically a good way to start the introduction. So basically, just trying to tell you what I'm going to be covering in each episode. Each episode is probably going to be about 15 minutes long, depending on the curriculum. Um, So let's go ahead and get started. Basically, music theory is basically just a mathematical equation which was performed by this Greek philosopher known as Pythagoras. Pythagoras, if you guys have ever heard of Pythagoras, you know the Pythagorean theorem is basically based off of that formula. Whereas learning how to add and subtract and knowing your intervals, we'll get into intervals later. So, but right now, let's go ahead and talk about the definition of music. Basically, the definition of music is an art of sound and time that expresses ideas, emotions in significant forms through the elements of rhythm, melody, harmony, and color. The rhythm is music's pattern in time. Whatever other elements is a given piece of music may have. Patterns in pitch, timbre, rhythm is The one dispensable element of all music, rhythm, can exist without melody, which means it doesn't need a musical instrument. It can be a drum. That's basically it. It could be a drum, or it could be just me just tapping on this piece of table right here. But no drums. It's like it's got a pattern to it. Da 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 da. Whereas the melody is like da 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 da. So that's the melody right there. So and melody is a pleasing succession of sounds, a series of musical tones arranged to give a pleasing effect. And harmony is the sound of two or more notes heard simultaneously, or it could be one note progressed by another. So, that's probably one of the best ways to describe music. It don't even have to be a musical instrument to make music. It could be my voice. Right now, my voice is doing some type of rhythm pattern right now, and I'm just looking at it on the screen, and I'm just be like saying boom, bum, 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 boom, boom. Or it could just be me just turning a page like this one guy back in the early of 20th century. All he did, well, he was a piano player. His audience was the actual music. All he did on the thing was on the stage. He just sat down in front of the piano. All he did was turn the page. That's all he did. Is turn the page. And then all of a sudden, the audience was like roarous and outraged. It'd be like, and you'd be like hearing. It's basically his audience was his own musical work, which was probably the most brilliant thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, like, it's probably one of the most exciting stories I've ever heard in my life because basically all he did was turn the page, and basically the only ones that were making the sounds were the audience in these pitches and all this kind of dissonance. Oh, you're going to be learning about dissonance and consonance pretty soon, but it seems like this is probably a good start for my first episode. And if you guys like to tune in and like to hear more, just give me a shout. You know, I mean, this is probably the first chapter of many chapters because right now we'll be covering some more ground basically on the next episode. Um, of Harmonic Theorem. I like that. It's kind of like I got a good catchy name right there. And thank y'all for listening.